Alright, let's get started. Here is the starter, fed 20 hours ago. You'll need a digital scale and a bowl. First add 700 grams of water, then 100 grams of your active starter. Here you'll see it floating, and mix. Here is my preferred bread flour, and you'll want to add 1,000 grams of bread flour. Right now I am making a recipe for 2 loaves. If you only need 1, just cut this in half and mix generously. After a minute it should look like a shaggy ball, and you just keep mixing until you can't. Eventually you'll have to use your fingers. It will be sticky, and that is okay. Here you want to be a little rough with it. Just make sure that you get as much of the edges from the bowl as possible and as much off of your fingers as possible. Once well mixed, you do want to cover it and leave it alone for about an hour. Here is the dough after an hour, and this is where you would like to start your stretch and folds. You'll see me with a cup of water just so I can wet my fingertips and make it easier to pull it up and down. This will eliminate the stickiness from your hands as much as possible. You're going to want to do 4 sets at least, 30 minutes between each set. I personally like to tuck and turn it between each set just so it's round, and leave it alone for 30 minutes. Mess with it again 30 minutes after. This is my second set of stretch and folds. You just repeat the process here. Once again, cover for 30 minutes, uncover, and on my third set, this is where I add 20 grams of salt. I like to add my salt after, just so it gives my dough the opportunity to form the gluten a little bit better than if I had added it during the mixing process. Now I'm just stretching and folding so I can fully incorporate the salt into the dough, and covering it once again for 30 minutes. I do another set of stretch and folds. Here you'll see that tiny air bubbles have started to form. The dough does look a little bit shinier, and this is when I'll do what they call coils. Basically, you pick it up from the middle and you let the sides fall down slowly and plop it back down into the bowl, and just repeat the process. The idea is to continue to do so until you get that circular round shape, and you'll see the dough does look shinier here. I let the dough sit for an additional 30 minutes and do my last set of stretches, where I just pick it up from the middle and let the sides fall to get that round circular shape. You'll pick it up again, and it's a slow process. You don't want to go too fast because what you're trying to prevent is tears. You're trying to make it more pliable here so it's easier to shape the dough once we're in the shaping phase. And lastly, I do like to turn and tuck it in so I can get that nice round ball look. In total, 2.5 hours have passed since I gave it 5 sets of stretch and folds. I leave it alone for an additional 4 hours before you see me actually flouring the countertop to start shaping the dough. So in total, this bulk fermented for 6 hours before I got to the shaping phase. Others might take 8 hours, some might take 10. It's really dependent on your environment and the elevation as to where you live. Here, because I made enough to make 2 rounds, I am just making a square shape and cutting it down the middle. So I'll be setting one aside and shaping this one into the horizontal batard. You'll see me bring the right corner in, the left corner in, and then slowly roll it away from myself. You make one full roll, turn it, and then roll it away from yourself once more, and make one full roll. The important part is to make sure the dough does not rip or tear, so you can go as slow or as fast as possible as long as it doesn't tear. Put it into the batard with the seams up and make sure that the seams are closed firmly, like how I'm doing so here. This is ready to cold ferment, which I will be leaving in the fridge overnight. Now I will be starting on the circular boule. I just make a generally square rectangular shape here, and similar to the other, I bring the right corner in, the left corner in, and then I slowly roll it up and away from myself. Only difference here is I will start to turn it slightly, and on each turn I use my top fingers to bring the dough inward and make a circular shape. You'll notice as you continually do this, it will start to look tight at the top, but little tiny bubbles will start to form as well. And like the other one, you do want to plop the dough into the bowl with the seams up and firmly close those seams as much as possible until it looks a little something like this. Now we put this in the fridge to cold ferment. I will be baking one dough. After 4 hours of cold fermenting, I am going to bake the circular boule. Here is where you can score it to whichever design you like. Here we were just experimenting and having a little fun with it, with a small little design of similar lines. During all this, you do want to preheat your oven at 450 degrees with the Dutch oven inside for about an hour before you actually put in the cold dough that has been cold fermenting for at least 4 hours. Once you set it in there, make sure you put your timer for 35 minutes with the lid on. This is after 35 minutes. You do want to put the oven a little bit cooler at 425 degrees before you set it back in there without the lid. And these are the final results. This is what the circular bowl looks like after 10 minutes without the lid. And these are the final results. No adjustments needed, my best one yet.